So welcome to the Node.js Next 10 meeting for the August 16th, 2026. We will start with our standard approach of going through the issue that was created in the repository. That is issue number 224. Before we get started, does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share?
Because maybe it's in 1 month, there will be a conference in Spain for Europe, the open source collaborator, and also a collaborator summit there in Bilbao, 15th of September, I think, the week during the 15th. Could be interesting see if some people listen to us and are not aware about that.
Right, so we had basically, yeah. So Jean, it's taking minutes. Jean is like reminding people of the collaborator summit, right?
Yep.
I think we have at least 2 or 3 sessions that we submitted from the next 10. I haven't taken a look at the draft agenda yet, but that's maybe something we need to start looking at soon.
Yep.
Okay, so if there's no other announcements, I'm going to move on to the issues that were tagged for the agenda. The first one was the Collaborator Summit technical priorities. I think, Jean, that's one you've been working on.
Yeah, so I finished the first one. I need to review just the second one. So the community one, there is a pull request that is open, so you can check it out. Second one is almost done. I'm reviewing a few stuff because I made a mistake when I was ordering everything, but should be quite easily done soon, like today.
Okay, so you're capturing the stuff from the boards, right? Okay, so that's good. And probably once we have, probably makes sense to wait till we have both, and then we can go through and just discuss. That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, oops. The next one was the corporate support and contributions, number 177. I think again, John, you were looking at that one. I don't know if there's anything to discuss.
Yeah, I think last time we said we will spend a few moments today to discuss about this one. Also because it's also linked to one. If I remember correctly, we opened an issue to have some time to discuss about that during the collaborator summit next month.
Right, yeah, let's come back to that one. Let's get through the other ones, which will be quicker. And then, yeah, I think you're right. We said last time we'd spend the rest of the meeting talking about that one. The metadata proposed for docs, I don't think there's any update on that. I know it's still on Claudio's list. He's got a good proposal, but he's doing lots of other stuff as well. So I think there's an update. Review the easy retros from the club summit and do updates as appropriate.
Which one was this one?
That's this one right here.
Oh, I think it was. Oh, I need to. Okay, I completely forgot to update this one. I saw some feedback from multiple people, but yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely need to finish this one.
Yep. Okay. Then let me just put this.
I think for example one, we can close it as I have access on it now.
So close it as.
Yeah, technically I have access. Maybe everything will be done inside the example repository now.
Okay. Access as in done in the example repo itself. Okay, so we'll close that one. Put that in the minutes as well. The next 10 survey, I think that one we spent last week going through, had some good discussions. I think we can probably close that out as well, right?
True.
Okay, So I say reviewed last meeting. The data. Right. That comment in. Okay. Create communications channel to JS newsletters and periodicals. So I think we've done most of, like, we've got stuff going, but I think most of our work, and we've talked about this. No, we do have some suggestions in terms of reaching out. So I haven't done anything more on this one. I don't know, Ulysses, if you have anything more that we should discuss on this. It's probably good to keep on the agenda as a reminder that we still have some work. I know I did propose a session at the Collaborator Summit to try and raise awareness, because I think we've got the technical stuff thanks to Ulysses going. It's really easy to make some things. We just need to figure out, raise the profile and encourage people to do that, as well as consumers. Okay, so that took us to the end of the agenda. So now we can loop back to the corporate support and contribution. So Jean, I'll let you lead that discussion.
Yeah, so I will follow up. I think I wrote a few stuff in the issue itself last time. So just as a big reminder, I'm not working for a big tech company or stuff like that. I'm working for Sanofi, so healthcare company, yet everything. And before that, I was working for banking and insurance. So basically, we all use open source daily and on everything, from using any kind of cloud provider, deploying application, building said application, and pretty much everything, even if people don't know it. And I noted when we were creating a NOSPO in a company that trying to find, or at least to display what the impact of open source to people is really, really hard if said people are not aware on what the target or what's really open source. And I'm not just saying about open free beer and this kind of stuff. For them, for people that are not part of technical or not technical at all, I'm speaking about HR, people buying stuff, even manager outside of tech. Open source for them is this kind of strange stuff that people spend time during their weekend or night, either in their garage or stuff like that, to do some stuff for fun, which can be like a console emulator or this kind of stuff. They don't think about this is what power pretty much everything they use daily, from website, software, smartphone, or everything. So this is one big issue, because when you try to bring the topic about open source, and I will let's say merge the two topics, or sponsoring open source financially, but also give time to people to spend, let's say, work time helping on open source or this kind of stuff, it's really hard for them to convince them, because they don't see what would be the impact for them outside of even just security or this kind of stuff. For them, it's really, oh, why are you spending company time to work on this stuff we will never use? Because for them, they never use it. So this is one of the main problems, and it's really hard to advocate. These kind of people won't go to the Linux Foundation, OpenJS Foundation, or any kind of foundation to just learn about open source. So I think there is one big work to do about what's open source and how you are all using it, let's say, on a daily basis, even outside of work, every time you take your cars, every time you take a GPS, use your smartphone, go to a website, all this kind of stuff. And I think we shouldn't go into to present that. It shouldn't be about specific library on front-end, back-end, or any kind of stuff, or even Linux or this kind of topic. It should be presenting why on a daily basis for people that are not in tech, what the part of their life rely on using open source. So this is really the first main point, is people don't know what's open source. So just starting with that, if you like when I created the OSPO inside the company, just starting about, oh, we want some budget to be able to have people, let's say, going to conferences or sponsoring specific, even just project we do rely, so to help maybe on security or this kind of topic, it's really hard to convince people and chief of head of kind of role, because for them, it's really, we don't know what's open source or we don't know why we use it. And most of these people are even like, oh, but do you know some big companies that use open source? Yeah, pretty much everyone. Even if they don't contribute, take every tech company, every non-tech company, every bank, every, like pretty much everyone. So I think this will be, and this is not something us four will solve, but I think that's something that could be really interesting to maybe discuss with, I don't know, the OpenJS Foundation or Linux Foundation, I don't know which level, about advocating about what's open source, because for now it's really close to, oh, this is this strange stuff that some people do on their free time for fun.
I'm sure that the Linux Foundation must have thought about this issue, because I agree, we're not going to solve that problem.
Yeah.
But asking, like making an ask, opening an issue in the foundation repos that are like, hey, this seems to still be the first blocker.
Yeah.
What does the OpenJS Foundation, Linux Foundation have?
Yeah.
Like, is there anything that, because at least if we had a list of resources, I guess that could be listed somewhere, right?
Yeah, because I remember when we were in Vancouver, there is one conference called the OSPOCon, I think that is part to the Open Source Summit. And they were giving some small book about, I think it was some feedback from maybe one bank or specific stuff about how they use open source daily and how they change their mindset on using open source because they're creating an OSPO group to use, let's say, build a security open source for themselves, use it correctly and everything. But I don't know if there is like a specific, let's say, I will call it book, but it could be a PDF or this kind of stuff, where a company could go, oh, what's really open source other than a Wikipedia article or stuff like that, with concrete example on how is open source being used in a company. Like for us, it's easy to say, oh, you are building a front-end website, so you mostly use open source technology, JavaScript, any kind of library or this kind of stuff. But for company, it's something they don't think at all. And for them, even if they run Linux server on a cloud or any kind of network solution, front-end API, this kind of stuff, they don't think about open source being linked to that. So I think having some big key for them about, oh, if you are building a website, you are maybe using React, Angular, Vue.js, and you list 2-3 top technology, and then this is open source because you have people from the community contributing to it and everything. Which would be a really good start because, yeah, I think it's a big blocker for us. At least non-tech company, it's a big blocker about open source. And linked to that would be, because people don't know about what's open source and where it's being used in the company, putting a price tag on what's open source is bringing to the company is really hard for them. Like, I had a discussion with some specific people, and it was like, oh, maybe we can contribute 20 or 30 or 50,000 a year to that, which is, okay, that's an okay number. But on the other hand, every pharmaceutical company are like a billion-year profit company. So the main topic is for them, they don't see at all what the impact. And when I describe to them, oh, every time you open a website, every time you go to this website for your work, it's maybe not fully open source, but it uses open source tool or specific library or specific component behind that. So if you remove everything on open source, let's say if you remove and tomorrow Node.js, everyone leave Node.js and no one take care of it, no one fix security, what would be the price for us to change from Node.js to something else? And just taking I don't have an exact amount, but taking 3 years or 200 people doing API for 3 years would be an amount which is way more than 50 grand a month, a year. Yet on the other hand, I cannot say, oh, we should contribute up to 100 million a year. Would be great, but won't be possible. So I think this is one key part that is missing. What open source is bringing to companies.
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge is companies don't spend money on things like they try not to spend money on things that they don't have to.
Yes and no, because I guess it depends on how easy also for them to have. You are working for Red Hat / IBM, stuff like that. So basically, Red Hat is built on open source, or at least not going into every details, but providing services around open source. And I think a lot of companies would be keen to do that if they saw the potential of everything. Because a lot of companies were paying for Oracle databases, where at the same time you could have a free Postgre databases for almost the same solution behind that. And now we see a lot of companies are moving from this kind, from Oracle to Postgre on cloud provider, stuff like that. So I think they are keen to pay up to a certain level. And for security, for example, like for us, we are working on a pharmaceutical part, and we need to be validated following HCPR or SOC 2 being compliant and everything. So if a runtime that we use is not compliant with that, or we cannot have it being compliant to a certain level, technically we couldn't use it.
Right. So yeah, you mentioned Red Hat, like, so that's part of the value add. So that's where we, we have had, I think, more success than some other companies in supporting and having people be, but unfortunately, we don't see enough of that. Like if we had all of the distros supporting Node to the same level, and all of the, like even just all the technology companies who resell technology, we'd be in a far better state than we are today.
True. Yes, but
all the cloud, for example, if all the cloud providers who offered Node as their runtimes were here, and like, I know Roy's from Google, right, which is great, but it's I think that's because you're interested versus it being a planned thing, right? Is kind of the
but
you have your hand up, so I'm gonna Roy.
Right. Yeah, no, I just want to, John, you can, I don't know, I just feel like when I was there when we started this conversation, and I always was thinking more in the individual contributor side inside corporations and other companies, right? And I just get the feeling that when we talk about funding, that's kind of like the entire reason for the OpenJS Foundation, right? Like that's what they're taking care of, right? Like, and they already have like a work in progress with the membership, right? And I know like big corporations like Google is paying for it, right? Like, and that is already like bringing some type of revenue, right? So please tell me what is the goal here discussing that, rather than like, because maybe the way I see it right now, maybe that conversation should happen at the foundation level instead of the next 10. But I'm I want to hear your thoughts on that.
So this let's say topic started last year when we were in Dublin, because one of the key, and you were here. So it was raised by a lot of people during the Next 10 meeting and other meeting, that one of the key points on not delivering feature or not moving as fast as some people would like is based on big company, and every type of company, are not pointing figure here, does not participate up to a certain level to the community. So most of the contributors, I would guess, work on Node.js on their own time, not on their company time, at least with a good separation on that. Especially when you see what direct or indirect value can bring the open source ecosystem to each company. And I'm not even speaking about just cloud provider and direct stuff. For example, we are not providing a cloud, but just using Node.js and not having to write C and C++ to handle HTTP requests is valuable as time and resources and knowledge from people. And the main issue is, as of today, yes, you can contribute to foundation, but for certain company, it's not just the amount itself, it's just where it goes and how can you contribute to this kind of stuff.
I would just add, like, yeah, we should, the contributions to the foundation, several companies like Google, Microsoft, IBM make significant dollar contributions. But I think where we're struggling is that we're looking for how we get support to actually run the development side of the things, the security releases, and to date, the foundations, they provide legal support, they provide marketing, but they don't actually fund any of that work. So there are some contributions that come through that, but none of that ends up supporting directly some of the key things in the project, like keeping the build infrastructure going or keeping the releases going, and that's where I think we some of this struggle, and why we discuss it at the node level is that it's not a solved problem in terms of like in my mind, an open source project is a place, and we've done a really good job of making it a level playing field where companies and individuals can come together to collaborate to move something forward. But that requires the people coming to collaborate to move it forward and picking up key functions like, so for example, we have the security triage and we have the security stewards. But if you look at the list of companies who've actually committed their people to prioritize work as security stewards, it's lacking in terms of large companies and a large set. And so I think that's where our struggle is. You're right that we never should forget that the OpenJS Foundation is there and there's significant funding that goes into it, but it hasn't closed those gaps that we're struggling with is kind of why. But I agree. I also agree with I don't think we're going to solve hey, why should you use open source? Like, we need to go back to the foundations to say, like, this is still a major problem for us, because when we try and encourage our individuals and support, the message hasn't gotten out yet. So,
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because I think I think there is two different conversations here. There is I'm an individual contributor within a company and I would like to contribute more, and I would like my company to be investing my time to do so, part of the conversation. And there is also this funding type of conversation that you were mentioning earlier, Jean, that I don't know, I just feel that one like kind of may fall a little bit more into the foundation side of things. And Michael, you mentioned some of the direct funding, right? And I know right now we're having conversations about the sovereign fund, like some security work, maybe having someone working on the build side of things for the infrastructure. So yeah, I can see like a way that maybe like growing revenue or for the foundation and having that being reinvested in a
right, because some things are, I think that the one that you mentioned, like making it so that companies encourage their individuals to contribute, because really we want the project to be a place where people come together on behalf of their companies to make things forward as a collaborative, as opposed to like paying money and funding work, right? Like I much prefer if we had a bunch of people who were like, yeah, their companies reward them and think it's really valuable that they come and contribute, because that's the most effective. I do think there's a few things that don't fit the volunteer model as well. Kind of like, for example, we're having some challenges with the website. If we think that it needs to be available 24/7 and support like the 300 to 400 million downloads it gets every quarter, that may not be something that's like, hey, me as a part-time, volunteer on the project is the best fit, right? Because like when it's down, it's like, hey, we need somebody. So I could see funding making sense for some of that stuff. But yeah, so I think you're right that like any discussion should have like those different aspects. I'll pass it back to Jean, and I'm gonna have to drop off, unfortunately, but I'll make you the chair, Jean, and
Yep.
I'll catch up afterwards.
Okay, cool. Yeah, also one other specific point, and just to go back to the funding, is as of today, if like company want to fund some work on open source, it can be quite hard for them to do so. Like as of today, we were discussing so internally at Sanofi, how can we contribute financially to some specific point? And yes, you have the part where it is linked to being a member of any kind of foundation. The only thing is for big company, it's by start a really, really big step on above. I think the minimal level for a company like mine is like 150K for a small foundation. If I check the Linux Foundation, I think it's 250. Whereas as a first year to try this program, see what a company can bring or have by joining this kind of membership is, even if the company can pay it, just the amount itself, which can be hard. And also another specific is how do you pay for that? Because every big company does have like 3+ months process to be able to vet every company they are working with, asking questions, funding, how do you send money to where to, and everything. So there is also this specific point on process and how can company be able to do that. And also sometimes maybe company don't want to be part of a foundation, but just fund a specific, I don't want to say a feature, but one specific at least language or library. For example, a security company maybe don't want to be part of the OpenJS Foundation, but want to give money to people to spend time exclusively on security. For example, I don't care about just one example like that. So I think that's also one of the topics that it should be simpler thanks to, so I know it's currently a beta on GitHub sponsor for organization, which could help, I think, on some specific part. But then it's also a question of is it being activated on GitHub or sponsoring goes through another channel, what kind of channel, everything like that. That's the main issue is for us, we can like, I could grab my credit card, my GitHub account and say, oh, I want to sponsor CURL for this amount or any SSL for another amount. I don't care about this one. For a company, unfortunately, it's not possible. GitHub sponsor solves something up to a certain level, but yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Elisa.
Yeah, I was thinking that, yeah, I fully agree. I think one of the biggest challenges, especially if you want to engage with like smaller companies or, family businesses, this kind of, 100 people around, even small consultancy firms and so on, sometimes it's hard, for them to like do these kind of things. I mean, I think for them, they saw it similar as in the same way that you prepare for, bring some publicity to your company through going to an event, and a sponsor and get your table there. And, and for big companies, it's something like, you have the marketing team with tons of things, but even just, prepare the merchandising for these kind of things. And half of the people on the table are the CTO and the tech people and so on, because, those are the people, right? So yeah, I think I have the same feeling with that there are a lot of like a niche of small companies that they understand a lot the value that can provide to help Node.js, but when we are talking about, try to manage funding, I think it's super hard for them to go to the CEO of the company or whatever and say like, look, those are the tiers, entry level, this is our category right now, how do you see that? And it's like super hard. But if we can try, to offer a plan that, for the people to just invest time on helping specifics on Node and so on, I think it's easier, to bring like, I don't know, DevOps specific roles that they have time, so maybe they can commit for more time. It's true that is also something to somehow control, because I think financial controlling is easier than time spent and quality of this kind of time, but yeah, I think that can be a good way to open more. And also we can prepare like a package normally for developers and potential contributors kind of thing, so they can go to the company and say like, look, this is the plan they offer. This is how I think we can fit, and this is the specifics, so you make super easy for them to sell it internally, because also it's going to be an easy sale, in terms of they are the technical people from the technical company in small size. So that will be a good driven, but they are not going to prepare a super big presentation and go to marketing. And, so I think that can be one way to bring like new faces around and to have more sponsorship, and maybe we can have like a kind of an onboarding plan for this kind of new contributors, so also it's easier for them to join, because I think also that's going to be a big curve on how you join the project and how you can start doing useful things, so you can start to showcase. But yeah, I think that can be a good option, but it's hard to to invest resources on controlling or onboarding and so on, so that's going to be a little bit tricky.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think something that maybe we can involve the Linux Foundation with would be also to display, because for a big company, most of the time you have the issue of copyright, IP and stuff like that about, if one of my employees, especially in France, for example, on most of the contract, you have everything you do on your company time is an IP owned by the company. So what happens if you do open source during your work time? It needs to be amended in a contract, or you need to have some specific stuff around that. So I think that's something maybe as a Linux Foundation could help about drafting a base, I don't know, few pages stuff about, some base licenses, because for example, I spent weeks discussing with some people internally with lawyer and stuff like that about licenses on creating and having people being able, and what's necessary to that, up to which extent, then which kind of project. For example, yes, for us, it's not really an issue if I want to work in Node.js. It would be an issue if I'm working on even if it's an open source project that is being, let's say, owned by another pharmaceutical company. Like, so you have some limitation that I can understand 100%, but it's every time every company need to be thorough and be going into like almost analyzing everything licensed to see, can you contribute on project A, B, C, or stuff like that. So, but I agree with you on the best part would be to have people contributing and having part of the company time to be able to work on open source. And I think this is something, because this one is pretty, like, it would be the easiest one for us to work on, I think. Just to be honest, even having people being able to attend working group session to discuss about specific issue problem, I would say just today, I don't need to have core contributor with 10 years of experience working on Node.js to discuss with them, let's say today, about, what do you think about our priority, technical priority, community priority, or stuff like that. So I think this would be something that could be really interesting to see if we can grow. I don't want to have 25 people in every meeting. It would be hard to handle, I guess. But yet, when I go through this one, Node API, WASI, security performance, I think it's most of the time around 5 people-ish. Most of the time, 3 are almost the same. So I think it would be great to have new blood coming and just discussing even asynchronously on issue on specific topics. And the good stuff is it's not something that is blocking for a company. Like everyone can take 1 hour a week. Like I hope people are not being micromanaged up to this level. But I think that would be a good start. And I don't know how we can bring that or help people to find that. Maybe like one initiative was pretty good a few years back. I don't remember the name. It was to have like senior contributor being paired with new people to help them to learn about Node.js and stuff like that. I don't remember the name of the initiative.
Yeah, I think it was like a mentorship working group, something around that.
Yeah. So I think this is something that could be great to have something like that. Trying to have at least maybe one, I don't want to follow that, maybe 1 people mentoring per working group, I would guess. To say, if you have an issue and you are interested in Node API, maybe you should check with this guy and he can bring you up, give you some specific stuff to read, and you can join us a meeting at this specific time and everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I will say also that if we have the chance, we can discuss maybe with the ex-members of that working group and see what are the lessons learned at the end. So we can see like what happened on that relationship and how they evolve over the time, because I think also try to see how it works over the time will be interesting. Yeah, but yeah, I think that can be a kind of an easy way that we can try to promote at the Node scale, I think. And it's easier than trying to convince business people around the open source and the need for contribute and getting funding. It's going to be super hard. But the other, I think try to bring new faces and make that more regular, so their employees allow them to do that, and we fix the paperwork, in terms of the legals and so on, so they can contribute. And I think that can work.
Yeah, true, because when I was checking the other day, I think I don't remember if it was a member of the OpenJS Foundation or Linux Foundation, but let's say a foundation, and we start seeing more banking or hedge fund kind of company, which we weren't seeing like even 3-5 years ago. It was mostly tech company at every level and some specific university. You start to have banking right now, which is really good and really great, and starting some insurance. I think it could be really great to, I don't know how to call it, like having this kind of big poster about why, like I was thinking about the old poster from the US in the 1940-ish, we want you on open source, why you should contribute, what it could be important, stuff like that, just with the main reason and what it brings to company. Like one easy to draw poster for everyone to remember could be also something interesting, I guess.
Yep, I think so. Yeah, it'll work.
Because I think in company, like you have a lot of people that would be keen to contribute. I'm not thinking about full time, but even if people can spend 2-3 days a month in total, and it's not that much. And I'm not even asking per person, like this one would be the best. Like if you have 2 days per person per month on open source, the open source will never be so great on a company. That would be like 2,000 contributors from our side. Would be nice. But no, I think that's something we should try to work on, to find ways to company to be invested in. Like you said, smaller company, few, I don't know, tens, hundred of people, up to very large company, because it won't be the same way also to access and to contribute, both financially and by people time, and also communicate around that.
Yeah, I think will be good. Yeah, also we can have a good selling point, because in a lot of companies you have these senior position roles for most of the engineers, and they get kind of used to what they are doing, /boring, you get more performing over the time. So yeah, somehow I think that can be a good actual promotion, in terms of HR, to promote the people to stay in the company, and because you grant them some, you can explore and expand your skills and grow and so on outside of this super legacy project where you are most of your days. So I think that can fit a lot of lot of interesting people for the project. So
for me that would be the two big topics around that. I don't know if you have other one.
No, I think that's a good one. Yeah, I think maybe we can explore also, because discussing about the OSPO office, that is good. Maybe we can try to get around some and talk about some OSPO managers and see how feasible is this idea. Because they are already evangelized about the open source and so on at the level that they have an office, kind of. We can discuss with them and say, like, how do you think this idea might work? And let's see what problems they see, because I think for us, as a technical people, I see super simple way, but maybe talking about the business and so on might raise some concerns. As you said before, just simple contract with the exceptions on in the time of work, how you can contribute. There are tons of things that we can discuss. But let's bring more people to the discussion and more ideas, and open up to other roles.
Yeah, could be great, because that was we did in my company for the past 6 months, to create an OSPO with some people, and most of them are being technical. I'm part of them, and we have 1 or 2 people that are outside the technical scope. And still outside of the technical scope, but with a background in engineering and stuff like that. So we have people like patent lawyers, stuff like that, that went to engineering school before that. So it's not people that know nothing about the technical part yet. And that's why the main issue we saw is, let's say we had 6 main points. Using open source correctly, it's mostly linked to security internally. Great, cool. Doesn't really impact the open source world as itself. The main 2-3 points is really around like, how can we contribute both in terms of people and financially if we cannot work with people? And this raised a lot of questions. We had to go through like interview with HR, with legals, with manager, with pretty much everyone that is not technical, basically. And every time the base of the discussion was, do you know what's open source? And most of them weren't aware at all. Some of them were like, oh, maybe it's sharing stuff internal of the company. Like, yeah, you start to go into the right direction, yet it's not exactly that. And when you ask, oh, how do you think open source is being used? Oh, we don't use it. No one uses it. It's like small stuff, fun time. Great. Yeah. Good try. Fail again. But yeah, so I think that's a really big topic for company and could be great to have. And I don't know, maybe the Linux Foundation can have something like maybe a discussion with people, multiple, like you said, people from multiple OSPO, from multiple company. And not just a pure technical company like the big FANG one, because this one is completely different because most of their business is around or part of open source, at least directly. So yeah.
Let's see. I don't know if we have more points for that topic. Let's see. Yeah, because it's quite interesting, the issue, actually. So for sure, there are more things.
Yeah, this one could be a really, really long discussion depending on the point that we want to address, how we want to address it, up to which level, and this kind of stuff. Yes. I think one of my ideas before that, in some issue somewhere I wrote, was about how can we, and it was mostly about the financing part, would be, do you think it would be interesting to raise and to have like a book-ish being published maybe 2-3 times a year around, which would, I don't know, a 30-40 pages, like a bit like the Gartner stuff every, I don't know when they do it, but a lot of big companies do have access to it with a tech radar and everything. But for us would be some news about Node.js, maybe the big security update, because in most of the company, even when some people follow security, a lot are not up to date or are not careful about security update and stuff like that. And to try to draft something that would, maybe we could link that also to that about, oh, what did it change for us to work more closely with open source and having people being like contributing or us sponsoring, going to conferences and speaking at conferences for one, and also include some stuff like big security fix, vulnerability, or what's coming next to specific, let's say, working group. Maybe we can take 2-3 working group every time on big specific announcements, like, I don't know, a few months back, the creation of the performance working group, which improve, I don't know, let's say, Node.js by 10%, I don't care about the number, but something like that. Or, oh, now we can use WASI directly, and that's great. Or new stuff with FFI, or specific security with a new behind a flag policy model or stuff like that. I think that's something that could be also interesting to company. The main issue is someone will need to write that.
Or find a way to collect all that info. But I think that can be interesting even for more other topics, because at the end it's going to be like the impact of the project overall. So that can be something that, we present from collaborator summit to collaborator summit kind of thing. So it's like a summary of what happened. So I think that can work, in the same way that, big companies do the typical technology/con and they present the last thing. So we can go in something that direction more smoothly, because it's going to require some time from one of us trying to collect all
Yeah.
those metrics and try to make it something digestible. But yeah, maybe we can try to find ways on how we can, try to bring that information weekly, kind of thing. So we collect those and later on we build. Because if we try to summarize at the end of the 6 months, it's going to be super hard for the people to remember what happened 5 months ago, because it's like 20 releases in between and 1 million comments. Good luck checking out the changelog. So yeah, we can try to find some kind of balance that we can collect information and later on build something kind of half automatic or something in that direction.
I think we could even use maybe the what's new in the issue open in each working group, stuff like that. Like, I think that would be a good way, maybe from time to time, at least once a month, to have something tag a specific one. Oh, this is important for the next publication. And when someone goes through the 20 repository, stuff like that, automatically, you only keep the thing that has a specific flag behind or after or something like that. I think it could help a lot on that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think also that one of the big problems that we have now with the adoption of the tell me this is what's going on, so we can, like move it around with the RSS feed, is that it's like a new workflow for all of the people. So half of the people is like, oh, that's a new step. Well, first of all, it's like, okay, more things to do. And the other thing is like, what I should write here? Like, you have to summarize some things, or sometimes like a little bit tricky. So maybe we can just create a new tag, the same way that we use the tag for, this will be discussed in the meeting. So we can have a tag of this should be highlighted somehow. Sure. So people can just highlight pull request issues, whatever, all around the Node.js organization. And later on, we can collect those, and at least we have the basic of what happened, and then we can just build a narrative around. So that is going to be easier, because in the other way around, we are half line, I think, on checking what's going on, because there are plenty of working groups and people, initiatives, and so on. So that way, maybe we get a better information of what's going on. And it's not that difficult. I mean, it's just a new tag for the pull request or issue, which is something that people are super used to it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think maybe something in that direction. But yeah, again, it's a cultural change, so it will require to synchronize a lot of people to get that. But yeah, that can be a good point to start collecting info.
Yeah, I think it would be great, just even for us to, because we all remember the big news every time, but we don't go through the changelog. And I think for external people that don't have time to follow every changelog and stuff like that, even going through the changelog for every major releases, I don't think a lot of people are going really deep into detail for each one of them. Like, would be great, but fortunately, I don't think people do that. So could be like presenting the big initiatives, the big new stuff from time to time, like you said, being used. Like, I do really like the idea of this thing being used and being published for every collaborator summit 2 times a year could be really great. And I think really interesting, like would be a good time to present that and to have, let's say, a specific dedicated time, maybe first day when we have the presentation about the OpenJS, and maybe follow that by the Node.js project. And if other project part of the OpenJS do the same, could be also a great time for them to say, oh, and for us, we did that and we book, I don't know, 30 minutes for project. I don't know the number, but I think it would be really interesting to have a big overview and a big vision that for people, and could be quite nice also for company to be involved, and to maybe some company would be keen to have some people review that or validate the design or stuff like that. I guess writing it directly, if people are not contributing to Node.js, it's a bit harder, but I guess some company could be keen to have some people spending some time to review it, like do some typo correction and this kind of stuff. And in exchange, they do have the logo, but somewhere, like every time.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, but at least just to having something with tags, that you can just summarize and just build a view with even if it's super raw, it's going to be like a first good step. And later on, maybe we can use some automation to analyze all of this information. We can use some kind of I don't know, this trendy ChatGPT around things or so on, and try to digest and at least collect some hashtags, ideas, and so on, so you can search about security or founding or WebAssembly or whatever, and you can get like more targeted things. So maybe that's something that can work. Yeah, but yeah, definitely start tagging and later on see how we can build something with that. I think it's a good idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
That could be nice. Could be nice. Like, yes, it would change some specific workflow from people, but if it's just adding one specific tag, I guess people would be keen to do that if we are able to display, oh, this does have a good impact outside or even inside and stuff. Could be nice. Cool. We do have 5 more minutes. I don't know if you want to, like, do we have another specific point? I think we go through most of them. So yeah. Don't have specific on my side. I don't see other specific point. I don't know for you or we.
I'm okay.
Cool.
Oh, good.
Cool. Then we have 5 minutes for us to grab some drink and everything.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.